Hello, and welcome to the Piano Lessons for Parents podcast, the practice edition. My name is Dr. N. Mason Conklin, and I'm here to help you help your child succeed at the piano. In just a few minutes a week, you can learn the basic musical concepts that will help you supervise and evaluate your child's practice time at home, and learn some tricks and tips to make that practice time the most effective that it can be. On today's episode of the Practice Edition, we're going to be talking about another component of healthy technique, and that is strong, round fingers. If you've had piano lessons at all in your past, you probably remember your piano teacher's exhortations to curve your fingers. Curve your fingers. There are good reasons to want curved fingers, but there's also, it's important to know exactly what it is that piano teachers are requesting. Yes, it is important that we develop rounded fingers at the piano, but there's certain things that you should look for to make sure you're doing it correctly. First of all, what we want is for the kids to be using the fingerprint part of their finger on the keys. Okay? It's the fleshy part about where the swirl is. We don't want the very tip of the finger. Okay? That's a little bit too curved. So if we say curved fingers, kids may do this rather than this. And this is what we want. Round, strong fingers. So we want them to play on the fingerprint part of their finger. We also want them to have a high bridge of knuckles. Now the high bridge of the knuckles are these row of knuckles right here. You can make sure you can see those knuckles by doing the wave bye-bye thing. If you wave bye-bye, you can see that ridge of knuckles right there. And that's what we are looking for when we ask for a high bridge. So we want a high bridge of knuckles and round curved fingers. And what we want is a round shape all the way from the base of the palm through that bridge and then down to the fingers. The curve is not just from the fingers like this. The curve is actually all the way from the wrist over that bridge and into the fingers. This makes a very strong shape. Just like in architecture, how an arch is a very strong shape, this is a very strong shape to transfer the weight of the arm all the way into the keyboard through this arch and into the fingertip. If you'll remember, we talked about developing large arm motions. And one of the reasons we do that is because we want the kids to develop this sensation of dropping onto the key, and using their entire arm to play the finger, not just wiggling the finger. Okay? So, we need a strong shape that's going to transfer the considerable weight of the arm into the key. Now, one thing you want to watch out for when you encourage strong curved fingers, there's a couple of things that we can fix right off the bat just by knowing what not to do. And I mentioned one of them already. We need to avoid over-curved fingers. See, these are over-curved fingers. I do have a high ridge of knuckles and round fingers, but if you listen to that, if you can hear it, I'm actually making contact with the nail of my finger. And this also encourages kind of a clenched, desperate hand. It's like a kitty cat hanging on to a screen door. Okay? We don't want this. We want the hand to be mostly relaxed, but round and strong. Another thing that you want to avoid when you're looking for round, strong fingers is flat fingers, okay? So this is kind of a flat finger technique like this. We still have the high ridge. We're still using arm muscles, but you can see they're kind of poking at the keys with straight fingers, straight splayed fingers. It's going to be pretty difficult to corral those fingers whenever it's time to start working more with the fingers in scalar techniques. Another thing you want to avoid is a buckled knuckle. We don't want to break this joint right here. You see this joint closest to the fingertip? And you will see this all the time in little kids because their fingers just aren't strong yet. Now this is a bad shape. It's not really, it's putting a point of weakness right here where we need strength to transfer to the fingertip. Okay, so if you see your kids with these, we call them broken knuckles or buckled knuckles, encourage them to make that a round, strong finger. And finally, one thing that a lot of kids will do that will actually create problems with curving the fingers in with the high bridge of knuckles is they'll play with a really high wrist. Now, if you play with a high wrist, to curve your fingers, you kind of have to do this. You see how my round shape is completely gone? It's because my high ridge of knuckles are gone too. If I don't have this bridge like that, I can't make a round shape from the wrist all the way to the fingertip. Okay? And some kids can do this with a low wrist, and you'll see this. But most of the time what happens is they have a high wrist, and what they're doing is they're poking down through the wrist into the finger. And when they do that, it creates, if they try to keep a curved finger, it will create this low bridge, this low knuckles. We don't have that nice high bridge of knuckles that we want to see. So, we encourage, when we start off with finger numbers, we talk about helicopters and the nice egg shape of a helicopter cabin. We also encourage kids to think of a little soap bubble in their hand so that they keep that sensation of leaving some space between the keys and this ridge of knuckles. And this is a constant battle. This is not something that you fix in one lesson and it's always good from here on. This is something that we work to develop through the first year, 2 years of piano, just to get the right shape of the hand. So to review, we want round, strong fingers, and the round shape also takes into account the position of the wrist, a high bridge of knuckles, and a round shape so that you can play on the fingerprint part of the finger. Okay, that's it for the practice edition. Make sure to tune in next week for the next edition of the Piano Lessons for Parents podcast. I'll see you then.